You know, one of the bummer things about podcasting is that you do a great episode, it has a little bit of a run for a week or two, and then it vanishes. In this episode of Podcastification, I'm going to talk about how to keep your content alive using social media. My name is Kerry Green, and I am the Client Happiness Guy at PodcastFastTrack.com, and this is Podcastification. This show is all about podcasting. How to do it, how not to do it, best practices, interesting news items that have to do with the realm of podcasting, and who knows what else. And I'm trying to do it all with a little bit of fun and some information to help you get a show going, keep yours going, or make it better. And if you like what's going on here on the show, I would appreciate it, so appreciate it, if you could leave a rating or review on iTunes. You can find out how to do that at podcastfasttrack.com/review. That's enough of that kind of stuff. Let's get you podcastificated right away. You know, for a very long time, I have struggled with understanding how to manage my social media accounts. I mean, we've all got Facebook and Twitter and Google Plus and things like that. LinkedIn, I mean, there's all kinds out there. Instagram, Pinterest, they just keep coming at us, don't they? It can get confusing trying to figure out how to schedule your old content and your new content on all those platforms in a systematic way that's going to enable you to get the word out about the stuff you're producing. Man, it really is tough. Well, I want to share with you, it's not a perfect system, and I'm still working out the kinks, but I want to share with you what I've come up with to try and handle getting out my old content, my new content, and making connections with people through social media, because it is social media after all, isn't it? Well, the first thing I do is I use a Google spreadsheet. Okay, and you can go to Google Docs and Google that and figure out. You can go to the show notes for this episode at podcastfasttrack.com/social and find a link to Google Docs so that you can create your own spreadsheet. But what I do is very simple. I copy down the web address for every one of my podcast show notes pages. And on those pages, naturally, are my podcast player and all the information about that particular episode. And I put them in order. In the next column over, I put the title of the podcast episode, just so when I look at the spreadsheet, I can see what link is referring to what episode. And I do this with other content from other blogs or other websites. I make a list, basically, and every time I do a new episode or a new piece of content, I add it to the bottom of the list. And what I'm doing is I am systematically just going through the list. And I am posting those into my social media accounts using Social Media Manager. You can use Buffer. You can use Hootsuite. There's also one called Edgar. There's another called eClincher. And all these links to all these platforms I'm going to include in the show notes, podcastfasttrack.com/social. And you can use one of these platforms. And what I do is I schedule these out in those platforms. Now, let me warn you ahead of time. You're going to have a little bit of time on the front end putting together your spreadsheet. You're going to have a little time every time you publish content to add that to your spreadsheet. And you're going to have a little time at least once a week. I do it once a week and just schedule it all at once to schedule these things out in your particular social media manager. And what I like about two of these, eClincher and Edgar, is that those two are set up in such a way that once you load it up with content, if you ever have to skip a time of refilling it with new content, it will take the content you've already shared and it will re-buffer it into the app so that it will start sharing it again. I really like that because you're not just sharing it once, it repeats automatically. But as you add more content, you're adding to your hopper of content that you're sharing. I hope this is making sense to you. Let me review it real quickly. It's a spreadsheet with two columns. One column is the link to my web content, whether it's a podcast or some other blog post. The other is the description or the title of that web content, just so at a glance I can tell what that link belongs to. Then you're going to need an e-publishing platform, Hootsuite, Buffer, eClincher, Edgar, whatever you like. Some of those are free, some are not. But regardless, you need a social media management system like one of those. And you're going to sit down and you're going to schedule things in. When you have new content, you have to add it to your spreadsheet and then take the links out of there and add them to your social media management. Now, the reason I have the spreadsheet at all is so I can keep track of all my posts in one place, and I can also use that as a resource to add things to my social media manager. It's really not all that hard. But there is one other aspect of this that you need to be aware of. If you're on social media and all you're doing is saying, look at my stuff, here's my podcast, here's my blog post, here's the thing I created, here's a book I wrote. If that's all you're doing, you're like the person in a conversation who only talks about themselves, and nobody wants to be around that. So what's going to happen is people are going to start tuning you out, and you don't want that. So what you need to do also is create a way that you can share other content. Some of the things I've done are on that very same spreadsheet, and it's a list of links from other people's resources. I have friends that I know who have blogs or resources that I like. I have websites like Fortune Magazine, perhaps, or Podcast Answer Man, where I am able to go on their website, find a content that I like, take the link, put it into my social media management system, and populate my sharing with those things as well. So that I'm not one of those people who's only talking about me. And the ratio I try to keep is about 70% sharing about other people and 30% sharing about my stuff. Or maybe 80% sharing about other people and 20% sharing about my stuff. But you get the point. You need to be serving other people with great content and by promoting other people's stuff, as well as promoting your own. Now, what sort of results should you expect to see from something like this? Well, in my experience, I am starting to see a little more traffic on those older blog posts and podcasts that I did a long time ago, which wouldn't have happened if I wasn't sharing it at all. I also have some resources like books and things like that I am starting to see actual sales increase slightly because it's getting out there. If you don't promote your stuff, no one's going to see it. I would love to hear how you handle this whole social media management thing. You can leave your comments in the show notes at podcastfasttrack.com/social and let me know how you go about it. If you have any questions, any comments, or any tips you'd like to share, please let me know. And if you are a guru on this sort of stuff and would love to share some tips and tricks, contact me, Carrie at podcastfasttrack.com, and I would love to feature you on the show to help our podcasting audience learn how to handle social media in a better way. Hey, I so appreciate you listening. If you wouldn't mind sharing this episode, you can do that with your podcast app right there on your smart device. You can usually swipe or go into the settings and share this episode right away, or put it on your social media spreadsheet and put it into your social media management and share an episode with people because it was helpful to you. Thanks so much for listening. This show is brought to you by Podcast Fast Track, where my team provides professional podcasting services without the time suck. Full production, editing, and show notes all in one monthly subscription package. You can find out more at podcastfasttrack.com. Now go out and make it a podcastificating day.
This doesn't smell quite the way I expected.